Hey everyone, welcome to the Leader's Edge, your path to personal and leadership growth. I'm your host, Steve Steele, alongside my co-host and partner in leadership, Erlita DeCumos. As certified speakers, coaches, and corporate facilitators, we're dedicated to bringing you powerful principles to fuel your leadership journey and personal growth. Now, whether you're an entrepreneur just starting out, a new leader taking the reins, or a seasoned pro looking to refine your skills, this show is for you. We'll be diving deep into personal growth strategies to help you strengthen your mindset and leadership abilities. But before we jump in, I want to give a huge shout out to all of our amazing listeners. Thank you so much for supporting us and joining us each and every week. We wouldn't be here without your incredible support. Now, let's get down to business and help you unlock your full potential. Hey, Ernalita, my partner, beautiful partner. How are you doing today?
Good morning, everyone. This is your co-host Ernie Kumos. I heard beautiful, so
Yes,
this is a beautiful day. How are you doing today, Mr. Handsome Steel?
I'm
See
doing
how I
great.
made a
I'm doing
comeback.
so. That's very good. I like that. And I'll pay you later. But thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm doing great. And today is an amazing day. We have. I've been looking forward to this. I looked forward to all of our guests, but this guest has a unique thing today. A unique thing, I guess, a unique way of like I say, putting the show together. And so when we came up with the title of the show and the content she had was very, very intriguing. So Ernie, take just a minute and tell us who this amazing woman is.
It would be my great pleasure. Our beautiful guest this morning is a business development and communication expert with 30 plus years of experience helping leaders and teams become high performing, resilient powerhouses. A Maxwell Leadership Certified speaker and consultant, she equips clients with tools to manage conflict, reduce stress, and lead confidently through change. Her mindset shifting strategies from fixed to growth mindset, defeatist to resilient, boost engagement, rebuild productivity, and foster cultures of trust and innovation. With certifications in motivational assessment and mental wellness, she delivers practical strategies that drive both personal and business success. Please join me in welcoming Miss Arlene Gale to the green
Oh yeah.
room.
Hey, Arlene, it's so good to have you here. I've looked forward
Oh,
to the show for a long time, and the last few weeks that we've been collaborating together, working on the show, getting all the content prepared, it's just been an amazing time. So I'm so excited for our guests to actually hear what you've got to share today, and it's really going to be intriguing. So I want to tell our listeners right now what the name of the show is. So we call the name of the show, the title of our show is called Stump. Now, this is an acronym, STUMP, and it is about thriving under massive pressure. Wow. I'm assuming we're going to have a little bit of a story here today because you gotta be able to be able to thrive and under massive pressure you got to have something going on here. So Arlene, why don't we just start out a little bit about your story because that would make a whole lot more sense to our listeners as we go into the content. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about why massive pressure.
No, Steve, I'm just here today to create pressure for you. That's all.
ooh, I love that. I love that.
Oh, thank
I
you,
have
thank
not
you.
had a guest that way.
We have gotten to know each other too well. I'm just saying, brother and neighbor. Anyway, my story. Well, there's so much. But I think what we've talked about is, do you remember about 4 or 5 years ago, that little thing that I think it affected everybody in the world called COVID?
Oh yeah,
Mm,
Okay. Yeah. So
we're
I'm going
still
to start
yeah.
talking
my
about it.
story. I know. I'm going to start my story there because everybody went back into the world and was all excited, woohoo, when the COVID shutdown ended, and not so much for me.
Mm,
Everybody else was going about their business. You know, my youngest son went off to college, my husband went back to work, my oldest son went back to work, and I was left here looking at empty walls. So that was an issue for me. But one day I woke up and I had debilitating vertigo. I mean, literally, I was bouncing off the
oh.
walls. I couldn't go anywhere if I couldn't touch something to hold me upright. So
Mm,
I couldn't even drive. And for somebody who's as independent as I try and be, that's horrible. That was horrible for my husband too, because he had to put up with that. So just saying, sorry, Curtis. But so he was taking me to doctor's appointments, and all these doctors were running these tests. My heart was fine. I found out all these things about me that are just fine, which was nice to know, but they couldn't figure out what was wrong. So a doctor sent me to a neurologist who sent me to get an MRI. And at the MRI, they saw something. So he sent me to a different neurologist who got a different type of MRI. I didn't even know that existed. And they found a brain aneurysm. So one of the options was to let's take good pictures of this and see if there's a wait and see option, or if there's surgery or what. So I went into my first surgery where they went in through the thigh all the way up to here. I don't know how they do it. It doesn't make sense to me. But they took lots of pictures, and you may know me well enough to know that I'm kind of an overachiever. So I had a bubble on top of a bubble, which meant the wait and see, wait and watch option was no longer an option. Yeah. And the doctor said, what?
What if that aneurysm had? I mean, if it had aneurysm had broke or busted, that would mean immediate death.
Yeah, my doctor was pretty clear about
Wow.
that. Yeah, he told me even if I was sitting in the emergency room and it ruptured, there's nothing they could do for me. So
And
surgery.
you just all of a sudden it's come out. All of a sudden it just happened. You had no clue of anything else. Just happened. How much time went by? The time you started feeling vertigo from the time you heard that from the doctor?
2 or 3 months.
Wow.
2 or 3 months. And
Wow.
yeah, and the thing about the aneurysm is it had nothing to do with my vertigo.
Oh, was that right?
To me, it was a godsend, and we got.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I went through 4 surgeries in 8 months to fix the aneurysm. And during that time, the doctor asked me if I'd ever seen a vestibular physical therapy. And I said, I've never seen that animal around anywhere. I didn't know it existed. So he got me a referral, and I found a vestibular physical therapy. And she worked with me and helped me get rid of the brain or the vertigo in just 3 or 4 weeks. It was amazing. But
Wow.
yeah, so that's step 1 in the process of stress. You want me to go on?
Well, actually, let's not yet. I wanna go through this. What was going on in your mind as you're going through that journey of a simple vertigo? It's not simple, it's debilitating, but vertigo to brain aneurysm, that happens to be very fatal. What was the thought that was going through your mind then, Arlene?
Right. Good question.
The first thought was, how am I going to tell my children?
Wow.
And my husband's best friend died of a brain aneurysm at 40. And my oldest son remembers that. So that's why how am I going to tell my children was so hard for me. The next thing was, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. My oldest is gonna get married. He's got a wonderful woman he's gonna marry. My youngest one is gonna graduate from college. I want grandbabies. Oh, I can't die. So those were the things going through my mind.
Wow.
I love that because the mindset is, this is an inconvenience to my life. I have things going on. I cannot have this, right? I cannot have this right now, but it's a more so of a serious problem. But that was not just the end of it, right? What was the next story that happened? I love what you said. Life just keeps on giving. Like what else life gave you?
This starts getting massive. So yeah, I mean that by itself is massive. Now what happened?
So I went in for my 6-month post-op, and the brain aneurysm was almost gone. So they took me off the blood thinners they had me on. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, it was Christmas Day, and I was in the kitchen, and we have a family tradition. We all cook Christmas dinner together. And I was being sous chef for my oldest son, and I bent over to get something, and I couldn't stand right back up, and I couldn't tell top from bottom. And my husband was talking to me, and I thought I answered him, but he put me in a chair, and thank God he was listening to the stroke test stuff that the doctors had him go through. And he realized I had had a stroke Christmas Day.
Wow.
And I don't remember anything for like 4 or 5 hours other than the terrified looks on my son's and my husband's face. It resolved itself, but it involved a emergency or a ride in an ambulance. and I told when I started to kind of come around, and it was like somebody had turned on the lights, and I was looking around, and it's like, there's my husband and there's a nurse. And I told the nurse, I said, I'm sorry. And she said, well, welcome back. And I said, well, I'm sorry. My husband probably overreacted, didn't he? And she said, no. She said,
Oh,
I asked you your name and you gave me your phone number. I asked you your
Oh,
birth
wow.
date and you gave me your name. And I turned to my husband and I said, I'm sorry, So,
mm,
yeah, so there was that. So they put me back on the blood thinners for the brain aneurysm to resolve anything that might be left over from the stroke and prevent another one. So that's
Okay.
step
mm,
2.
That's step 2. Now,
okay. Wait.
well,
Thing 2.
go,
Was
go
Thing
ahead, Ernie.
2.
it thing
Go ahead,
two?
Ernie.
These are stories. These are series of events, but I wanted to picture like what you're going through. These are events, like what you're sharing to us as events. Like in those moments, was there ever a time for you to like stop, breathe, and say, "Why is this happening?"
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There were nights that I couldn't sleep and I would sit around and just kind of watch the ceiling fan go round and round. And, it's like, and I would tell God or ask God, why? And more importantly, what am I supposed to do with this? Because, you know, there now you've had 2 times you could have called me home and you didn't, and I don't want to waste this
Mm,
gift. So that was really important to me because I didn't understand um, what I was supposed to do with this gift, and it caused me stress. Um, but I'm also still focusing and praying about, I want to watch my son get married. I want to watch the other one graduate. I want grandchildren. I've
yeah,
got so much to do. God, I want to honor your gift. How do I do this? And I didn't have
yeah.
an answer yet.
Well, we
Thank you
got
for
about
that.
4 minutes left in this first segment. That went by so fast, but
I know.
I want to get to this next one
The
because
third one. Okay,
yeah,
partner. Okay, partner.
as far as the aneurysm being massive enough, and then a stroke on top of that, there's a third part of this
Mm,
that is just, yeah, I mean, tell
Yep.
us.
Okay, so at about 6 months or 5 months, I decided, I'm tired of sitting around being sick and just feeling blah. And so I want to get into some sort of a normal routine. So I thought, well, what can I do? So I scheduled a routine mammogram. What could go wrong? It's routine. I've
Mm.
had that done 25, 30 years now. Nothing could go wrong. It's routine.
yeah, yeah.
And they saw something, sent me in for a
Oh
needle
my goodness.
biopsy out of an abundance of caution because I have a sister who'd had breast cancer and radical mastectomies. And that was on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I went out of town for Thanksgiving, didn't really give it any other thought because this was, out of an abundance of caution. Got back Monday morning, I got a phone call. It's breast cancer.
Gosh.
Oh,
It's like, what? So yeah, so that was the big 3. And then, so I had to, went through all of that and the surgery. I'm allergic to the stitches that they used, allergic to the antibiotics. So I ended up with open wounds that then delayed,
Oh,
treatment. And
oh my
so it was,
goodness.
life just kept giving and giving and giving, but it wasn't the gifts I wanted.
right.
I
Oh
I
my gosh.
I
I
do
mean,
agree.
that is amazing that you've gone through all of that, Arlene. And I know that, oh, one of those things, just one of those things would just sometimes just take its toll on a person. But having three
Mm,
major situations happen within how much of a span of time between from the beginning of it to the end,
It
to the
was
breast cancer?
a little over a year from
Are
finding the
you,
brain aneurysm to finding the no, a year and a
are
half. Year
you
and a half.
kidding me?
It was bam, 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 bam.
crazy.
Yep.
And that's exactly why I wanted to stop in between. I didn't know this, obviously, but stopping
Right.
in between, because that's what it felt like as you were sharing the second one.
I cannot imagine
You
all of
just,
that in a year and a
and
half.
within a year and a half.
hmm Yep. And
Yeah,
that was
Wow.
just to the breast cancer surgery. That doesn't count the almost a year of recovery and treatment after that.
uh,
Mm.
was there like a moment? Was there like a weak moment that you've had, Early? I'm sure there is. Actually, let me rephrase the question. What was your weak moment?
I sat down with my husband and he said, "You haven't cried yet. Are you okay? What's going on?" I said, "I'm afraid to cry because I'm afraid if I start, I can't stop." And he gave me a big hug and he said, "I love you." He whispered in my ear, and that broke the dam. I started crying and I couldn't stop crying. And through the sobs is like, "I can't do this." And he said, "Why not?" I said, "I'm not strong enough." And he looked at me. He's an engineer. He solves problems. And he looked at me with all of his heart and said, "So what's your plan B?"
Oof.
Oh,
Wow.
and that's where we will have to get a quick break.
Yeah. Good
Arlene
place.
just shared.
Good place.
Cliffhanger.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Arlene just shared her story from having a fatal aneurysm to a stroke to cancer and having that weak moment with her husband. When we return, we will actually dive deep into what that plan B looked like for Arlene. We will be right back.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Leader's Edge. I'm Steve Steele with my co-host Ernie DeCumos and our special guest today, Arlene Gale. Arlene, we just went through a plethora of things that happened in that first segment to you in a year and a half time. We talked about, let me see if I understand. We had an aneurysm. Didn't see that coming. After the aneurysm is like getting a little bit better, all of a sudden there's a stroke. All right. Stroke's kind of making its way and you're getting a little bit better, and then all of a sudden, cancer. And we're doing this, this is a year and a half worth of stuff happening to you. That's massive in a year and a half. Anyone, one thing is massive, but to have three huge things happen in a year and a half, that is massive. So you're sitting with your husband, you guys are talking it over, and you're like, you said you didn't cry, and all of a sudden he whispers to you, "What's your plan B?" And things go crazy. You just break out. So here's the thing, Arlene. What is plan B?
There is no plan B.
Wow.
Plan,
Ooh.
plan B is dying. And I told you
Ooh.
over and over again, the first section, I'm not doing that. So I have to go back to plan A and figure out, what am I going to do that's going to make me strong enough to do this? So it was
So
finding
there's
those
no
tools.
plan B. Plan B was death. That was the only thing you had. Wow. Wow.
Yep.
Ooh.
And we're kind of making it a little light here because, you know, I don't want to make your listeners cry.
I'm
But
about to burst into tears
I
right
know.
Yeah, me
now,
too.
so
Me
you
too.
Yeah.
know.
It's very
But
emotional. Very
yeah,
emotional.
but that's where I came up with I really thought about it. Well, let's step back a second. I love my husband dearly, and we've been married 42 years. We've known each other like 45. And when he asks me questions like that, my first inclination is to thump him on the back of the head. It's like, how dare you ask me
Yeah.
such a logical, reasonable question when all I want to do is be emotional. But
Yeah.
what I've learned through the years, I
I
know.
can see that. I can actually see it. Why that would feel you
Yeah.
feel that way.
So what's happened over the years is that when he asks me something or says something to me, and my first reaction is to thump him on the back of the head, I have to go,
Mm.
he just pushed a button. And I've been working really hard to move those buttons around so he can't push them, but he pushed a button. So it makes me look at myself and say, what button did he push and why did I have that kind of reaction? And in that moment, my reaction was, it's fear, it's loss of control, it's depression, it's fear. Did I say fear? All of
Yeah.
those
Yes.
things happening.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, what is the plan B? And I come to, like that, a little voice whispers in my ear, there is no plan B. And I did what
Mhm.
Steve did. What do you mean there's no plan B? He just told me I needed a plan B. No, plan B is death, and I'm not ready to go yet. So I got to step
Mhm.
back and
Oh,
figure out, okay, with plan A, what do I do now?
wow.
Mhm. So what did you do? What were the I like what happened after? I don't even
No,
know what to
we're
ask.
yeah, exactly.
Well, it didn't happen overnight. It takes time.
Mhm.
But one of the things I discovered was I was spending a lot of time and energy trying to control the cancer and trying to control other things that I had no control over.
Oof.
So
Mm.
when I pointed that out to my husband in another conversation, he says, so what do you have control over? Because it's like, duh, if you don't have control over something, doesn't it make sense you would ask yourself, what do you have control over? But I
Mm.
was so close and so emotional, it took somebody on the outside to look in and
Yes.
ask me that question. So what do I have control over? Well, I have control over how I tell my boys. I have control over who else I tell because I know who will support me. I have
Mm.
control over the doctors I choose to treat me. I interviewed
Mm.
Yeah.
10 doctors before I found the 4 that I was going to hire to treat me because I had control over that. I
Mhm.
didn't know exactly what I wanted, but I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want a
Yes.
doctor to come in and walk past me and start drawing a treatment plan on the whiteboard and never introduce themselves or look at me.
Mm.
There were just little things like that. So that's something I had control over. I had control over when we did the surgery. So, again, the biggest thing there was how do I shift my focus, change my mindset away from I have no control to what can I control instead? And that
Mm.
started to bring me back into myself and realizing that I can do this. I am strong enough. I don't need a stinking plan B, you know? I can do this. And sometimes it took 3 or 4 or 5 times a day looking in the mirror and saying, I can do this. I am strong
Mm.
enough. I can do
Ar-
this. I am strong
Arlene,
enough.
let me ask a question.
Hmm?
You know, the Leader's Edge is not necessarily a faith-based show, but we do talk about faith. Did faith play a part of this at all in your recovery?
Mm.
Oh, yes. I had a Psalms that a friend gave me that I printed out was in my purse. Whenever I started getting scared, I would pull it out and look at it because it's about, God putting angels to carry me through. Um, and I believe in angels on earth, and I had those in my life. Um,
Mm. And like you
and
had 4 doctors that were angels to you at the
Exactly. They
time.
came
Yes.
to me at the right time in the right way and said the things that I didn't even know I was looking for to make that connection. And my husband laughs at me because we go and see them now, and we spend half of our time talking about me and how I'm doing, and then the other half of the time I ask them, "How's your family? How's the newborn? How's one of them had a house fire? How's the house rebuilding going?" So it's about that relationship that I
Mm.
had with my doctors. And focusing on my family too, because, you don't really know if you're a good parent until you have a tragedy and your children step up to help.
Oh yeah.
They
Mm.
came and cooked for me. They came and babysat
Mm.
me while my husband went out of town. He wasn't going to go, and I told him go. My oldest son and his girlfriend now his wife, they took good care of me. They stepped up, and so I found peace in that. And thank God, counting my blessings and thanking God every moment for what I had going in my life. Positive focus instead of negative focus.
Mm.
Right.
Oh, that's I, I partner, I would like to share this. So Steve and
Yeah.
I had a conversation before the show, and him and I are going through something that's very I guess it's like crossroads at the moment. And we were talking about the issues, the fears, and whatever the case is, and like shifting that and say, you know what can we do right now? Instead of focusing on the fear, what can we do right now to alleviate or to solve that problem? And I love that because you're focusing on the positive. It doesn't mean that you're gonna be like, well, nothing bad is gonna happen to me. I'm not gonna die. You still have those fears, but it's just a matter of, okay, what can I do right now? What can I
Right.
control
Right.
right now? Right?
I love
Those
that. It
beautifully
sound
said.
it sounded to me like, Arlene, when you were doing that and you were staying present all the time. You were staying as present as you could with the situation. Because if you let your mind linger out to the future, you can't do anything about that. It's not even here. You don't even know what it's going to be. You can't do anything about the past. It already happened to you. So so the
Mm,
that you had was making those decisions that you could make in the present moment. And I absolutely love that.
And
Absolutely love that.
that became a tool for me, because we want to look way out. I want to not die, and hopefully that's not going to be for 20, 30 years, but I have no control over that. That's a God thing. So how do I make
mm,
the most of my time now? And so I have a goal to, for example, I had a goal to get through radiation. Okay. I can't do anything about how I get through radiation, but I can be nice to the people who are taking care of me because they're taking care of me and they appreciate that and they see hard stuff. So for me, it was not what's out here, it's about what's the next best step. You can have
mm,
a goal out into the future, but when you focus on that, it gets stressful and it gets scary and gets overwhelming. But if you focus on the next best step and you take it, and then take the next one and reassess and say, okay, well, this isn't exactly what I wanted. So you kind of shift a little bit, take the next best step, take the next best step, because we're not always perfect, and the next best step is not necessarily going to take us where we want to go, but we may not know that for another next best step 2 or 3 more times.
I,
So
mhm.
we're always
I
looking,
love it.
always watching where's that goal and what's the next best step. So we don't get overwhelmed because it causes stress. It causes the fear that comes from looking way out instead of focusing on the next best step can be
Yes,
overwhelming.
I agree.
Absolutely.
And part of my background is working in healthcare, especially for oncology. So we do treat cancer patients. And a lot of times, and this is just observation, and I do understand why, a lot of times I have angry patients. Angry patients. Did you experience that in your journey? Was there a part of your journey that you
That's a
were
good question.
angry and upset?
Well, one of the things I've discovered is fear is a blanket that covers all sorts of other things. When you get under fear and you start looking at what is causing the fear, it's lack of self-confidence, for example, lack of control, for example. So for me, I got angry, but I never got angry at the people around me. I got angry at the cancer. So I was
Mm,
angry at the cancer, and I would go sit in the waiting room for my radiation, and I would see somebody who was in a lot worse shape than I was, and I would pray for them, ask God, help ease their pain. So yes, there absolutely was tons of anger, and there were a couple times that I kicked things, and I'm going to tell you that truth because I did,
yeah.
because I was angry at the circumstances. I had had enough. I didn't want to be in that situation. And I found out later, cancer's the gift that keeps on giving. We're still going through stuff that's related to the breast cancer. So it didn't do me any good to be angry. But I never took it out on the people who were caring for me because I knew that I saw that one other patient in the waiting room. They see these
Mm,
patients all day long. And
yeah.
so I worked really hard to, it distracts me from what's going on that's maybe causing pain. But I'd ask them, so what are you doing this weekend? I found out they're going to the lake, they're going to water ski, they got grandkids, they got this, they got that. And next time I went in for radiation, it might be Monday. It's like, so how did the water skiing going? And then she starts telling me about, oh, I've almost killed myself, and we laugh. And so, building those relationships, no matter how short term they are, being nice to everybody that God puts in our path. I believe he puts in our path for a reason. And these people who do this hour after hour, day after day for years, it doesn't do any good to take it out on them. They're taking care of me. I want to be nice and show them that I appreciate it.
Arlene, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What do you say to the viewer or the audience listener that's out there that says that is like maybe they're angry with the universe or they're angry with a higher power in their life or they're angry with God. How do you deal with that? I mean, how do you deal with being angry at a higher power or being angry with God? Uh, how did you experience that? And if you
Or just
did,
be angry in
yeah,
general with
yeah.
whatever's going on in their life.
I had developed enough faith at this time that I knew God had me, but there were other times in my life that I was angry at God, and I just kind of fumed and kept it in, held it in, and it made me a very different person. It made me not care what other people thought of me and how I treated them, to be quite frank. This is a long time ago. But what I discovered, one day I was at home by myself and I started yelling at God. It's like,
Mhm,
"Ah!"
mhm,
I
mhm.
mean, really yelling
Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
crying and literally fell to my knees. And what I discovered was, you idiot. God knows you're mad. God knows you're hurt. God knows this. God knows that. He wanted you to come and talk to him and yell at him if you had to help build that relationship. So, whatever your higher power is, if you put that much faith in them, you got
Mm.
to know that they know what you're going through. So take it to them. Don't hold it in and suffer and be angry. Um, get rid of all that darkness and start talking about it to somebody. Start looking at it, start naming it, start claiming it, and then toss it aside. Because when you focus on getting rid of the ugly stuff, you focus a light on it, it gets rid of it, and then the light can grow inside. So, yes, I
Mm.
had those struggles. And even through the breast cancer, it's like, I don't understand. Help me understand.
Yeah.
Give me peace. But I trust that he's going to give me the answer in my time. And I know
Yes.
that there turned out to be 4 or 5 times God could have called me home and he didn't. And I'm working really hard every day to figure out what do I do to honor that gift because I believe that my life is a gift.
Mm.
Absolutely. It's beautiful.
And I
Well,
want everybody else who struggles through that too to find people you can talk to and vent to who you trust and who love you, and then look in the mirror and say, I'm here for a reason. I have purpose because you absolutely do if you have breath
Yeah.
in your body. Okay, I'll get off
mm.
that soapbox.
So, Ernie, let me say one thing before. I know you have a question, Ernie. We only have about 3 minutes, but I want to make this point to the audience: fear-based versus faith-based, because
Faith-based.
it doesn't make what your faith is in if it's a higher power, God, or whoever you want to, the universe, whatever you want. But the opposite of fear is faith, and so we need to understand it. We have to move toward that to get better as human beings, right? Okay,
Mm.
Ernie, I'm sorry. I just want to make that point.
No problem. My question is, when you did what you said you did, like talking to somebody, naming it even, how did that make you feel?
That's a good question.
At first it terrified me because I had no idea that I had so much anger inside me.
Mm.
And so that scared me. And I got to a point where I thought, well, if I get rid of this anger, there's not going to be anything left of me. And so it was not just a matter of, so I used to say, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be angry. And then I would get angry. But what I realized, take negative to positive
Mm.
physics. If you're saying what I don't want to do, you're focusing on I don't. Well, that's the way you're going to
That's
go.
that's right.
So what
That's right.
Yes.
so I asked myself, what do I want instead? I want to be happy. I want to know love. I want to be at peace. So I took little
Mm.
sticky notes and I put all over my house peace, love. I found little Bible verses. I found quotes from other people. What do I want to be instead? And focus on those things.
Oh, again, going back to the
Beautiful.
positive, focusing on the positive. So, two tools that you have shared with us on this segment, Arlene, is it's okay to be angry and upset,
Mhm.
but do not live there.
Right.
And the other one is take one step at a time. We will need to take a quick break. We just talked about the two tools. When we return, we will talk about the one very thing that Arlene takes with her on a daily basis. And that will be a cliffhanger. We will be right back to the Leader's Edge.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Leader's Edge, and I'm Steve Steele with my co-host Ernie DeCumos. And I will tell you that last segment was probably one of the most powerful segments we've had in a long time. And our special guest today is Arlene Gale, and I'm so excited about what we're going to be hearing next, Arlene. This is just going to be amazing. We talked about a couple of tools. We talked about it's okay to be angry as one tool, and we're going to have those days when we're upset with God or we're upset with people, whatever. We're going to have those days, right? And then the second tool was basically well, tell me what the second tool is. It was
Take
taking
one
Next
one
step
best
at a
step,
step.
time.
one step at a time,
Yeah.
right? Taking that one, the next step, because, and I'm a firm believer in that because that's really how solutions get solved is taking one step at a time. And sometimes those steps are small because you can't see the end of the goal until you take step one. That's where it starts, right? And then we have a third step, and we're going to cover that right now. So, Arlene, tell us a little bit about the story there behind this third step. Tell us what that is.
Okay, so we talked about stump, and
Mm,
there's a story behind that that I want to share with you real quick. At the point before I was diagnosed even with breast cancer, I just wanted to get out of the house. I wanted to go do something. I wanted to feel a part of something other than my sofa
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
mhm,
four walls that I looked at all day, every day. So I went to a park and I thought I didn't have a lot of energy because I really wasn't doing a whole lot. I wasn't supposed to. So I parked my car and I thought, if I can just make it to that step or that bench and
mm,
sit there for a while. And so I did. I made it to that bench. And so I was kind of taking in all the sights and sounds. I listened to the children laughing on the playground. I heard cars honking on a nearby street. I smelled the fresh air. I listened to the leaves rustling. And I started to kind of calm down and find some peace. And then I looked off to the side, and there was this old, ugly, dilapidating stump. And I lost it. I just started to cry because I looked at that stump and I thought to myself just that. It's old,
mm,
it's useless. Why don't they pull it up? It's got no value. And that made me cry because it's like that's how I feel about myself right now because there were so many
mm,
changes. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know who I was supposed to be. I felt so lost and, I felt beaten by the storms. I felt broken, just like a tree that becomes a stump. I felt, in some ways, abandoned by who I used to be because I knew I would never be that person again. How can
yeah.
you when you go through all those changes?
Mm,
So I finally decided, okay, I'm going home. This isn't working for me. So I walked back to the car and I got in the car and I came home and my husband had cut down a dead tree a couple years ago. And I looked at that dead tree. And again, I'm a crier. I'm sitting in my car and I'm crying again. But this time I'm looking at the stump and there's little shoots of new branches coming out from different parts of the stump. And that made me realize it's just different. It's changed.
Yeah.
It still
Mm.
has value. And I went and walked around the stump, and it was hollowed out at the top, and there was water collecting. Water gives life. So the bugs or the birds or the squirrels or whatever could come and play in the water or drink it. So it shift my perspective. So while I felt stumped by all these changes that were happening in my life, and I had a
Yeah.
really negative outlook or perspective on what the stump was and what value it had, it
Mm-hmm.
changed. So I talk about don't get stumped in a way that people think about an old stump, but they don't think about what life-giving attributes are still there in that stump. So when I say use the acronym still thriving under massive pressure, um, that's what the stump is doing. Sometimes the stump may feel pressure to feel like it felt before, like when the birds were in it and things like that. We can never go back. But what can we do
Mm.
going forward? Who am I here and now? What value do I have here and now? Because I have value. I think I said that, I got on that soapbox already. We all have value. Sometimes it's just a matter of slowing down enough to see it, like seeing the new sprouts off the old stump, seeing the bugs that are weaving in and out of the bark who are gaining a place to hide and live. We have to change our mindsets. We change our perspectives. We stop living in a place where emotional stress has caused brain stress. There's a really neat
Mm.
study that I found by a Jill Taylor from Harvard, and it's called the 90-second reset. So when something happens to us and we get angry or frustrated, we get in all of those emotions, we're feeling all those feels,
Mm-hmm.
we'll just stop and breathe for 90 seconds. We will feel those endorphins that were released stop working. We stay angry and we stay stressed and scared when we continue to think about what emotionally triggered us. So we
Yes.
create that situation ourselves. She's done
Mm-hmm.
research studies that prove that if you can reset in that 90 seconds, come up with something, don't think about anything, or come up with something positive to think about, you don't have to continue to torture yourself with the emotions that
Mm-hmm.
take you to bad places. And so with that stump, it was the same way. And now I think, okay, if I'm seeing something that's ugly or doesn't have value, or, I dismiss it, I stop and think, what is the value? Because there's nothing that is in our lives that has no value. It's there for a reason. It's there for a
Yeah.
reason. It's just a matter of a mindset shift and getting out of the emotions to think logically sometime about what that is that we are, who we are now here in these
Mm-hmm.
circumstances.
Oh, wow.
I'm curious, Erlene, when you realize on that moment that you do have value, when you see the perspective that needs to be changed, what was that first step that you took? Because I'm sure somebody's listening right now and saying, that's great, that's really good, but what do I do? Like, what's the first step? What was your first step?
Through all of this stuff, I became very isolated. And the isolation made depression worse, made anger worse, made fear worse. So for me, the first step was pick up the phone and call somebody. Who
Mm.
do I trust that will pick up the
Mm.
phone when they see my name? Um, Start letting people know that, hey, I'd like to go to lunch. When would you like to go to lunch? Um, just taking those steps to get reconnected with the world. So I wasn't
Yeah.
so alone and didn't feel so isolated. Sometimes it was a matter of what if I started feeling that way, go to the grocery store, walk down the
Yeah.
aisles and
Yeah.
see people there and smile and say hi. Yeah, they look at you funny like you're nutsy cuckoo. But you know what? Some of them will smile back and you see them again
Yes.
on another aisle and they go, hey, it's you again. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a way to reconnect with the outside world. So that was my first step, was getting reconnected to the outside world.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
beautiful. I have one more
That is.
question.
Go
Okay.
ahead. Fire away, Aaron.
Okay. And you have shared three tools with us, which is basically, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to
Mhm.
be angry. Just don't live there. The second tool is take one step at a time, or what's your next big step? Now, changing the perspective. These tools are beautifully said and done, Arlene. But what are you doing today? What are you currently doing in your life right now while still dealing with healing from breast cancer?
Wow. Put me on the spot, girl. Well, I'm doing this. I'm trying to reach out and share my story because I think that's one of the reasons that I'm still here is to share my story. And I hope that I can give other people hope. So, I got a motivational assessment. I got certified because motivational assessments are different from personalities tests in that motivation is an emotion. And we know
Mm,
emotions are what drive us to act or behave in certain ways.
That's right.
So when
That's
I
right.
work with people and they can identify what motivates them, and so it measures your motivation, but also your level of satisfaction. And if
mm,
you're really highly motivated, but your level of satisfaction is not high, but on the other end, your motivation is low, but your satisfaction is non-existent, but you're spending all your time focusing on this that doesn't motivate you, that's why the higher things aren't working for you. So I've gotten certified to do motivational assessments. Um, I help people write their story, write their books to be their story in a book to be a business building tool. I
mm.
do small group coaching. I do individual coaching. I work with companies to talk about mindset in a leadership setting and a team building setting. And we always talk about mental illness. I want to flip that. Mental
Yes.
illness should not be our focus because by the time somebody's mentally ill or acting out on that, it's hard to take back. So let's focus on the here and now on mental wellness,
Yep.
the wellness. And I think that's what my tools do is help us to think about our mental wellness and how we can act to preserve that in the face of all the things that are happening in our lives. It's it's not always easy.
Oh,
And,
yes.
we want to persevere, but sometimes progress is slow and we want it fast. I know I am
Mm.
stubborn. I want it now, but we have to move at the pace that we're meant to move and not try and drive that bus because if I'm trying to drive the bus, I'm likely to drive it off the cliff. I have to turn it back to God. So what I'm doing right now is trying to get the word out about what I do, why I do it, and how I can help people, whether it's in small groups, at churches or other groups or businesses and team building in families. I've done motivational assessments for individuals, and then we can look at them together and I can coach them or counsel them on these are areas where things are good. These are areas where you might have this. And you can do the
Mm.
same thing with small groups in a business setting too. And you can train your leaders to understand what causes this. All of us have worked with somebody who's been difficult to work with, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
definitely.
I like to think the positive. They're not trying to be different. They're just motivated differently. And unless you understand the differences in the
Agreed.
motivation, when you come together, you're going to butt heads. So,
Yes.
so that's what I'm trying to do is just to try and share my philosophy, whether it's personal or professional, in a way that, I can't change the whole world, but I can change my world. Maybe,
Hmm.
hopefully, that's my goal.
Hmm.
Mm.
That is beautiful.
Beautifully said, Arlene.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
How can
Wow.
people reach out to you?
Yeah.
Well, my website is arlenegale.com, and Gale should be easy, but I've learned there's like 2 dozen ways to spell it. It's Gale. So Arlene, Arlene, Gale, Gale.com is my website. Got lots of speaking topics in there that you can look at, or if you have a theme for an event and you want to talk about it, I can certainly massage my content to meet your theme. Um, my email is arlene@arlenegale.com. So if you need anything, have a question, or you just want to say something nice, that makes me feel good too. Just put
Mm.
in the email somewhere where you heard me, and I would love to connect with you. I have books on Amazon.com. As I said, I'm an author and I help people write books. I just want to get out in the world. I want to continue that next best step into everything that I do. And that was getting out into the world, getting my message out there, getting me out there. It's a
Mm.
pretty cool world when you get out there and you shift your mindset and your perspective and see the things that are good in people and things.
That's absolutely beautiful, Arlene. Arlene, this has been an amazing, amazing show. I have just
Thank you.
got so much out of this, and I have seen things in my own life. We'll talk later. I love, we need to have coffee because we live in the same area.
Yes,
So,
we do,
but
neighbor.
yeah, so it's like, it's just been so simply amazing to me. Thank you so much for today. I'm going to turn it around though, because next week on the Leader's Edge, we want you to join us for one of the most famous, or not famous, but most talked about episodes that we've had on the show called Living in Your Matrix. And actually, it's a replay because with Steve and Ernie, we actually do the teaching called Living in Your Matrix. So don't miss this game changing conversation on building teams that thrive together, building times when you can understand what you're thinking and how you're thinking. There's a little neuroscience in it. So join us next week for the Leader's Edge on August 7th. So, Arlene, as always, thank you so much for today. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all very much. And I count you as new blessings in my life, and I appreciate the opportunity to do this.
Oh, thank you.
If I can
Thank you
ever
so much.
support you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you are such an angel, Arlene. And
My-
just the
Okay, thank you.
Got those
Yes.
wings. Got those wings.
Yes,
I
she
hit my
has
halo
those
or my
wings.
horns. Thank you, Ernie. You're sweet. You're a sweetheart.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. And also, just a reminder to our listeners, you can find The Leader's Edge on Apple Music and Spotify or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We wanted to say thank you to all of our listeners and friends because without you, The Leader's Edge would not be possible. We are grateful to have you here and so excited to connect with you next time. But for